us, record us.
Recording on.
By the way, Shkoyach Randy for all.
Oh, sorry. You got killed out on that one. Sorry. Thank you, though.
Oh, really?
All right, you're back on, Yoel.
All right, I'll say you cut him off in the thanks, but yes,
Sorry.
it is appreciated for you being our host, our daily host, and our IT rep. So.
My honor.
All right, so we'll start off at the top of Mem Aleph, Amud Aleph, which is Thursday's blot. So we were talking about really an unrelated issue. They saw something that someone saw, Reb Zera saw something and he was unsure about it. So Amar Reb Zera, once again, continues at top of Mem Aleph, Amud Aleph. Amar Reb Zera, Ana Chazisi Reb Yavo Shaniach Yodov Keneged Panav Shalmata. So I saw when Reb Yavo, when he went ahead and he put his hand next to his Panav Shalmata, right, by his private area, right, to cover it up when he was going, let's say, to the mikvah, or Veloyadina Inaga, Iloinaga, and I didn't know whether he was holding or he came in contact with the private area or not. So Gemara says, Pshita Loinaga. I understand what the suffix. It's obvious he did not make contact with his private area. The tiny one in a brisa, Rabbi Eliezer Aimer Kol Eiches Ba'amo Mashtin Kilu maybe Mabul Yolim. Whoever goes ahead and holds, right, his private part while he goes to the bathroom is like he brings a mabul to the world, right? As Rashi explains, or the Gemara over there explained, right? Because a person, might come to be shechazer, right? Or he might come to, to be a balkari, right? Or and then he'll, doing it purposely, and he'll bring destruction to the world, just like the mabul did. So the Gemara says, so obviously he didn't touch. No. Maybe it's like that what we say when it comes to invading troops. The time we learn in the mission is when you have an invading army that comes to the city, the Shah Shalom, during the time when the city, right, is it times of peace. So chavias psuchas asuros stumas matoros. The barrels, that open barrels are usur. Why? Because the soldiers are around, and the Goyish soldiers, they come in contact and they take from the barrels of wine, the open barrels, and therefore those barrels have been basically defiled or touched by non-Jews. However, the ones that are sealed, so those are fine because obviously those they didn't touch anything on the inside. However, b'shas milchama, during time of war, even the ones that the barrels are open are considered to be tar. Why is that? Because there is no time to go ahead and to be menasech and go ahead and use the wine for their idol purposes or even come in contact with the wine. They're not touching the wine. Alma, so what do you see from there? Kavan to biyasa, since over there during time of war and they're scared, lo menasachi, right? They don't have time to go ahead and be menasech the wine. Hachinami, so over here, kavan de bois lo asil. Since over here, right, even if one does come in contact, right, since he's scared, right, he's not going to be balakari. He's not going to become a carry because he's not really thinking about a rayas, right? He's too concerned. So v'hacha my biusa, and over here, what concern is there? Biusa de nahara, right? Because over there they're going in, be taival in a river, right? So you go in a river, right? There's a current, so he doesn't want to drown. So therefore, right, even if he was covering himself to touch him, and he did make contact with himself, it's not a problem because he was basically in a sakana, situation. That was the last thing in his mind. He was more concerned about the current in the river. Whereas his Aini says, a person who goes ahead and covers up, right? It's like a person, it's like he's embarrassed of his bris milah. He's embarrassed of his bris milah because he doesn't want to show it. So that's why he's covering it up. So how could you? So what do you see? So even if he covers up, right? So that's also an issue. Right? The Gemara says, one is when he's going down. When he's going down in the water and he's facing away from the people, so then he shouldn't cover up because then no one sees and he can, then there's just, Hashem, so he's not embarrassed. But when he comes back up from the river, that's when people can see. So that's when a person would cover. So he had the Rava, like Rava, when he used to go ahead and in and out of the river, he would go ahead and he would, right, bend over so people would not, he would be more tznius, people would see. Rabbi Zera, Zakuf, right, Rabbi Zera would stand up straight because he was proud of his bris milah and to do the mitzvah and Rabbanan, the Bei Ravashi, Kikon Nachdi, Zakvi, Kikazalik, Shach, and Rabbanan, from the Yeshiva Ravashi, they used to go ahead when they would go down, they would stand up straight because no one see them, but when they come back up, then they would bend over. Now, finally, one of the cases where Reb Zera was, you saw something. So Reb Zera, another mice of Reb Zera, Havi ki ka mishtamit midrav Yehuda, the boy the Mesa Eretz Yisrael. So Reb Zera, he was avoiding Rav Yehuda. Why? Because he wanted to travel to Eretz Yisrael. And the Amar Rav Yehuda, and Rav Yehuda was famously known to say, "Kol ha'olam miBavel Eretz Yisrael, oiver b'yaseh." A person who goes ahead and he leaves Bavel to go to Eretz Yisrael, he violates an aseh. Shnamar, as the pasuk says, "Bavla yuvo v'shama you." Right? So he says, in Bavel you'll be, and from there you'll stay until I bring you back, right? Until the Moshe Mashiach and I bring you back. So no, stay in Bavel. So by you leaving Bavel, you're violating that. So therefore, he basically didn't want Rav Yehuda to hear that he was planning on leaving. So Amar Ezav Ishma Minei Milsa v'Aisi v'Isik. So he says, okay, I'll go to him. I'll hear some words of Torah, and then I'll leave, without telling him. So he went ahead and he heard him in the bathhouse. He told his attendants, have you li neser, have you li masarek, pischu pumaychu vapichu hevla, v'ishtumaya de bebani. So he said these four things. He said, bring me my neser, like my soap, right? And bring me my comb, right? And those things, he said in Hebrew, or Lashon HaKodesh. And pischu pumaychu vapichu hevla. Then the next things he said in Aramaic, he said, open your mouth, right, and let the steam come out, right? Or the ishtumai, and also drink water from the bathhouse. So Amar, so he said, if I would have come to just hear these four things, then it was worth it. I didn't even know I did not even have to go ahead and hear his shir. I could have just heard his commands to his attendants. So Bishlam, I understand when he said, okay, bring this up and bring this sarik. I understand what he learned from the Kamashal and Devarim Shalchol Mutalamim and Lashon HaKodesh. You're allowed to say mundane things and Lashon HaKodesh, mundane things such as bring me my soap or my comb. And he said Lashon HaKodesh. Pisku Pamaychu Vapi Kevla. And also open your mouth and let out the heat. Nami, because Shmuel is also like Shmuel. Damar Shmuel Havela Mapik Havela. That if you are steamed, right, then you should let out steam. You should open out, let out steam. But that which he said to go ahead and drink the water of the bathhouse, what good is that? So the Tanya, it actually is the Tanya of the Brayso. So a person who ate and did not drink, it's like he's eating blood. A person eats and doesn't drink at all, then it's not good for you. It's not good just to have solids and no liquids, right? That's the beginning of intestinal disease. And a person eats and he doesn't walk at least amos afterwards. His food will rot, and that basically begins, bad breath. A person has to go to the bathroom. Instead of going to the bathroom, he goes ahead and eats. It's like you go ahead and you comb out, or you comb out your stove, but you didn't clear it, and you just put new ashes on the old ashes. This is the beginning of a bad smell, bad odor. And so a person goes ahead and he bathes and he doesn't drink. Mehen. It's like you're going ahead, you're heating up an oven, only the outside, not the inside. In other words, you also have to heat up on the inside. So that's why I told him, go ahead and drink the water, because the water was hot. So in other words, heat up the inside and heat up the outside, right? You're bathing on the outside, but you also need to heat up the inside. And a person goes ahead and bathes with hot water, and he doesn't go ahead and rinse off with cold. Right? It's similar to a metal, right? When you go ahead and you heat it up, but you don't go ahead and cool it down afterwards, right? When you cool it down afterwards, that's hardening. I will still see later in the daf. And also a person goes ahead and he bathes, but he doesn't go ahead and use oil after. So it's like water on top of a barrel. In other words, that it doesn't go inside. The only way to really have a full body is to go ahead and use oil, and not just to just use water on the outside. But after water, go ahead and anoint with oil. Fine. Anaya Mishnah. Mishnah says actually there's a mayor here. Mayor's not. I don't see mayor here yet. Someone's got to wake up mayor, or maybe he's at work. I don't know. Fine. Mishnah says.
Maya Mishnah.
Maliyar Hagaruf. So a Maliyar. So Maliyar is actually right. There's no pictures here in the article, but a Maliyar. Let me see if I can get it here. This one right here. So this is Maliyar. So you see the coals are on the side, and the water goes in the middle. So in other words, so it says over there, Maliyar Hagaruf. If you go ahead and you clear out the coals. Shaisin Haimena b'Shabbos. You can go ahead and drink from it on Shabbos as long as you cleared out the coals, right? You shoveled them out or you covered them. So you're allowed to go ahead and drink the water. However, Antichi, which we'll soon see in the Gemara, which is Machloikas, right? Antichi, Afavisha Grufa, Ein Shaisin. But Antichi, which is hotter, right? Even though, right, that it's Garuf, it's what's it called? It was combed out, then you can't go shoveled out. You can't go dreaming for Shabbos. So the Gemara says, "Hey chidami moliar hagarf." So what does it mean moliar hagarf? So Tana, we learn mayim mifnim v'gechalim v'chutz. So you have water right on the inside, and you have the coals right on the outside. And antichi, what about this antichi? The second thing that we described, that even if it's hotter, that even if you go ahead and you shovel it out or you cover the ashes, it's garva katum, nevertheless, you're not allowed to use it. So Rabba Omar Bei Kiri. So Rabba says it's a Bei Kiri, right? In other words, it's similar to the other one. It's like half and half coals, half water, and the coals are on the side. There's a thick wall in between, but the wall gets heated up, and the wall is heated up. It's very hot, and therefore remains hot. And Rav Nachum Bar Yitzchak Omar.
I have pictures here.
Okay, right. So
Mm-hmm.
he says Bei Dude.
Yeah,
So he says. And Beidude, so Mandoma Beidude. Another one says Beidude. What is Beidude? That's like a double decker. So that one is like this one. That's one, as we'll soon see in the Gemara, as I'll point out over here, right? According to this Mishnah, this picture, right, where it's on the bottom, it's like a double lever one. The coals go on the bottom, and then the water, there's a compartment like in the middle, on the water's on top. So that was the second interpretation of an antichi. All right, and that's a Beidude. So Mandomar Beidude, one who says the Beidude is Aser, even as a Garva Katum, Kol Shekain Beikeri. Certainly the one on the side, because in other words, this one, it's certainly the Beikire, because that one is even hotter, right? The one with the heavy wall in between, which is heated up, that one will maintain and increase heat, and therefore that one's for sure Aser. If you say the Mandomar Beikeri, but the one that says Beikeri, if only the one with the hot wall in between, that's over by Beidude low. But the Beidude, but according to that opinion, we hold that the one, even though it's a double decker, that one would be okay because it's not as hot. However, Tanya Kavasi de Rav Nachman, we have a Bryce in support of Rav Nachman, which is the second way. Antichi afabi shagru v'ktuma ein sheisin amena. Antichi, even though it was gar v'katum, you went ahead and you cleared it out. You can't drink from it. Ein sheisin amena. Why? Mipnei shenechayshasa milchamasa. Because underneath it, right, the heat it comes from underneath it. So obviously the heat comes underneath it, meaning it's one on top of the other, not side by side. And therefore that's the pshat in the Mishnah that we go like that. Antichi is basically the double decker one. Fine.
Mishnah.
So another Mishnah says,
Mishnah.
Welcome, Mayor. We missed you. So, Hamichum shepinu lo yitain l'soichot soinen b'shvil shechamu. So if a person has, right, hamichum shepinu, right, sounds like basically a hot kettle, right, that was on the fire, shepinu, that was removed, okay? Lo yitain l'soichot, you can't go ahead and put cold water in it in order that it should heat up, that you should cook the water in this kettle. But you can put it in it, or inside a cup, which is a kli sheni, kadei lahavshira, right, to warm them. All right. In other words, you can't put it in a kli rishon, okay, a kli rishon even off the fire, a kli rishon to cook it, okay, but you can put in a kli rishon to warm it up. And you can also put in a kos to warm it up. That's the l'chayr the pshat in the Mishnah. Now the Gemara is going to explain. Let's see the Gemara. So my Komar, what's the Gemara saying to say? Omar, so my Komar. So Omar, Rav Ada Bar Ava, Hachi Komar. So means to say Hamichum shepinu mimena mayim. So the first pshat in the Mishnah is a kettle, a michum, right? That they removed from it the water. They didn't just remove from the fire. They also removed the water from it. They poured out all the hot water. But even though, right, you'll see if you dump out the hot water, the container, the metal kettle is still piping hot, right? So it says, you can't put a small amount of water in order that it should cook, because it will cook. But you can't put a lot of water in at one time to warm it up. In other words, if you put a little water in, it's going to cook it. If you pour a lot of water in it, right, then it's going to that'll be okay. So Gemara says, but there's another issue coming on. Is mitzaref, right? Mitzaref is hardening, right? We harden the clean. In other words, when you make metal objects, metal kalim, right? You go ahead, you heat them up, and at the end, you harden it as soft after you heat it up, and when you shape it, and then you cool it off by hardening it. So it's a malacha of makav patish, right? So a person's going ahead and hardening this by using a kettle, which might soften on the fire, and by putting the cold water. So why is that mutter to warm it up? Even though the water might become warm, but on the other hand, you're being makav patish. So our answer is must be Rabbi Shimon. He must be like the Rabbi Shimon. The Amar Davar Shemis Kavin, because this is how Davar Shemis Kavin. The person doesn't have intentions to go ahead and harden or soften the kettle. His only intentions are on the water. So this is called the Davar Shemis Kavin. And like Rabbi Shimon's machlokes between Rabbi Huda and Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Huda says aser. Rabbi Shimon says it's mutter because that was not his intentions, and therefore it's mutter. So the Gemara says, "Maskeva Abaye has a kasha. Samide micham shepinu mimeno mayim ktani." Understand? Does our Mishnah say the word? It was the water was removed from it. It just said it was removed. It doesn't say water anywhere. What are you talking about? Water, right? So it says, "Amar is micham shepinu mimeno mayim ktani." Micham shepinu ktani. It says over there that the kettle was removed. Elo Amar Abaye says like this. Haki comes means to say, "Hamicham shepinu." If you go ahead and you remove a kettle and there still is water in there, right? There's still some water. The yesh b'mayim, and there is chaim, and there is hot water in there. Lo yitain l'soich hamayim muatim. You can't go ahead and put a small amount of water in b'shil she'echamu in order that it should become cooked, right? It should become hot. But you can put a lot of water in it in order to warm up. So you can't put a little water in this kli rishon. But you can go ahead and put a lot of water in it, so it becomes warm. But a utensil, right? This kettle that if you removed, there was no water in it. You can't put kolik. You can't put any water in it at all. Why? Because over there you're hardening. You're doing makar patish, and even though it's davar shemis kavin, the Rabbi Yehuda, and this is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. The Amar davar shemis kavin also. And this will be the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda who holds davar shemis kavin is also. Fine. Amar Rav. Says Rav, so that was the interpretation of our Mishnah. So Rav, lo yishanu elo lahapshir, aval etzaref aser. So Rav says on one hand, right, we're only talking about to go ahead and to warm up the water. Your intentions are you want to pour water in it in an empty kettle in order to warm it up. But to go ahead and harden it, then it's aser. Shmuel Amar, afil etzaref nami mutter. Even to go ahead and to harden it, to pour water into harden it is mutter. So the tzaref lechatchila mishari. What do you mean to go ahead and pour water into lechatchila? Who says that's mutter? Rather, if you want to say like this. You can only go ahead and put in the amount that will warm it. About shir litzarif, but in order to go ahead and put the shir litzarif, now Rashi points out that when you do the shir litzarif, it means that you put how much do you have to put in for it to harden it? Actually, you fill it to the top. Why? Because the top is actually the part that gets soft. That's the weakest at the end by the rim, and therefore the rim is the part that's soft, and that's the part that you're hardening. So therefore, if you fill it, if you fill it halfway, that would be okay because then you're warming the water. If you fill it all the way, even though you're warming the water, but now you're also hardening the rim, the top. So therefore, if you fill it all the way, says Shmuel, like I say, Rav in the beginning says, only the halfway. About shir, sorry, but to go ahead and fill it all the way, right? Then which you would be doing hardening, which would be makar patish, that would be aser. Shmuel Amar, no, afilu shir letzarif mutter. Shmuel says no. Even the amount to go ahead and to harden it would be mutter, right? Would
Rabbi,
be mutter. Yeah.
Rabbi, today nowadays, I don't know much about metallurgy, but when someone creates a metal pot or vessel, I think it's heat treated. It's done prior to every usage. I don't know if that's the same way
Right.
today.
Right. Once again, right. I'm not a posek.
No.
No. But I don't think, I've never heard in terms of heating and adding hot water in terms of the keli itself. So it could be that the mitzias, the current situation does not apply at all because, like you're saying, the stuff are heat treated and it doesn't, soften or harden like it, did back in the day. But so it could be you're right. Then that is completely taken out of out of
the equation today nowadays. But for our purposes,
right.
we're talking about these vessels that were
right. But then remember, it's only a machlokes, right? If you hold that something which is davar shemis kavein is aser. So let's see. Shmuel says even to do it, and Shmuel says davar shemis kavein is mutter. In other words, so Andrew Glantz might not have heard of it, but not because it doesn't apply. Even if we would say it applies, it doesn't make a difference because since that's not your intentions, your only intentions are to maybe warm up the water. You're not intending to harden the keli. It's no problem. So Gemara says. So now top of Mem Beis Amud Aleph, which is today's daf. L'meimra. The Shmuel Rabbi Shimon Svirle. Are you telling me that Shmuel holds like Rabbi Shimon, right? That holds its mutter. Balmar Shmuel. So let's say a person's walking the Shus Harabim, the public way. A lot of people go there, and there is a burning piece of metal there. A burning piece of metal, which is a rabbin, and there's a rabbin. So a person's allowed to go ahead and extinguish a burning metal in Rishis Rabim, in order that the Rabim should not become damaged. Right? In other words, so you have a burning piece of metal, somebody, it's very, very hot, someone steps on it, will get burnt, will get first degree burns, right? So you're allowed to go ahead and put it out on Shabbos, this piece of metal. Now, the malacha of kibui, as we discussed earlier, is a malacha of, now normally any malacha you have has to be constructive. So what type of constructive is there, the malacha of extinguishing a fire? So that means when you make charcoal, right? When you put out wood, when you put out something that can become charcoal, that's a constructive type of extinguishing a fire, which doesn't apply by metal. So he says by a metal, you're allowed to go ahead and put it out because why? It could be a public issue. People can get damaged. But you can't put out a fire, right, if it was wood. Why? Because wood can become charcoal, and therefore it might be an issue, right? It might be an issue of the actual malacha of kibui. Now, if you say that he holds like Rabbi Shimon, afilu shel eitz nami. Understand, if he holds like Rabbi Shimon that a davar shem is kavein is mutter, that these weren't his intentions, why can't he also put out the wood? His not intentions. He's not trying to make charcoal, right? He's trying to put out, right, a public hazard, right? So afilu shel eitz nami, but davar shem is kavein. So the Gemara says no. What are you talking about, right? The davar shem is kaven, that which we're talking about earlier when we were talking about cases of when he wanted to get a warm water and whether or not he intended to harden. He didn't care. That was called davar shem is kaven. That he holds like Rabbi Shimon. That he holds it doesn't make a difference whether even if that wasn't your intention, it's okay. Davar shem is kaven, so like Rabbi Shimon. However, this case over here is not a case of davar shem is kaven. This is actually a case of malacha shem tzricha legufa. Now, malacha shein tzricha gufa is different. Now, malacha shein tzricha gufa is you're actually trying to do the malacha, right? But you're not doing the malacha for the purpose of the intent of the malacha, right? The malacha is not, right? So over here, right, like the malacha, right? So the classic case is, right? So you have the malacha, you want to go ahead and build something, right? So you carry a board from your house out in the street in order to build something in the street. That's the reason why you're taking out, right? You're taking out, that's the malacha. Right? So because that's the constructive purpose of carrying out. But if I'm carrying outside my house, right, that I'm tearing out a body out of my house, right, to remove that the mace on Shabbos from a house, so that's not for the purpose of using it outside. That's the purpose of just not having it inside. So even though I tend to do the malacha, right, it's she'en tzricha gufa. It's not for the purpose of why the malacha was originally made usher. Right. So that was so that would be different. So over here, so now this case over here, you're not asking me in a case of davar shem is kaven. This is not a case of davar shem is kaven. This is davar shem. This is a malacha shein tzricha legufa. And when it comes to malacha shein tzricha legufa, then Sabra Rabbi Yehuda, he holds that it's usher. In other words, therefore, that's the reason why only a derabanan like putting out hot metal would be okay, but not a deraisa like putting out wood. And Amar Ravina says, Ravina Hilkach, therefore, Kotzba Shizarab, if you have a thorn or Shizarab, Molicha Pachas Bechas Medalat Amos, you can go ahead, you can't go ahead and violate a derais by carrying it more than Dalat Amos. You can go ahead and only carry it less than 4 Amos. With a Carmelis, but it's in a Carmelis, it's an area where it's not deraisa, right? So it's right. Then Afilo too, but then you can carry even more than Dalat Amos, because once again, you won't be violating a deraisa to save the public, you'll only be violating a derabanan to save the public. Fine. Back to the 2 dots. So back to the quote of the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Aval Noisein, the Mishnah said, when we discussed earlier, he said, you're allowed to go ahead and put it inside the kettle to warm it up, or inside a cup, right? And a cup is a kli sheni, and the kettle of chayra is a kli rishon that's not on the fire. Now, so turn about a Noisein Adam Chamin L'Seichat Tzainin, V'loi Hat Tzainin L'Seichat Chamin Divir Beis Shammai. It says Beis Shammai, a person's allowed to go ahead and put hot, right, into cold. You can pour hot into cold, but not cold into hot. Because when you put hot into cold, right, since the bottom one is mostly cold, so therefore when you put the hot in, you're not really cooking anything because the bottom one is the dominant one. The one in the container is the dominant one, and by taking something else and putting it, so therefore you're not cooking anything. But however, if you have a case of where there's hot on the bottom, and then you pour in cold into the hot, right? You pour cold into the hot, then the cold and the hot, what's going to happen? The cold into the hot, you're going to go ahead and cook the cold water. So therefore, that becomes an issue. So therefore, Beis Shammai says, no, there's a big difference. when it comes to hot into cold, it's okay because you're not cooking anything. But you can't put cold into hot because you're going to be cooking the cold water being poured into the hot. That's a pin of Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel Aimrim. Beis Hillel says, Bein chamin l'seichat seinen, bein seinen l'seichat chamin, mutter. It says whether it's hot into cold or cold into hot, it's all mutter. In other words, you can do it. But medvar murim, what are we talking about? Bekos. This is referring to a kos. In other words, this is referring to a kli sheni, which is small, like a cup. All right. So if you have a cup as a kli sheni, so therefore, even if I have hot, I take water from an urn, right, and I put it in a cup. So that water in the cup is not so hot. So if I pour anything cold in there, if I pour milk or anything in this hot water, right, that would be mutter. But medvarim bekos. Aval ba'ambati, but if it's a large ambati, like a large, something that was a large tub or large things, very large, aval ba'ambati, chamin l'sei, but ambati, chamin l'sei chatzayin, v'loy tzen l'sei chamin. Then over there, you can only go, if the ambati was very cold, you can pour hot in there. But you can't pour cold into the hot because an ambati is very large, and therefore it will go ahead and cook, right, even if you go ahead and pour some cold in there. Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh, Eiser. Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh says Aser. So we'll soon see what Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh says Aser. So Amar Rav Nachman says Rav Nachman, halach Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh, the halach is like Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh who says Eiser. Now, let's try and figure this out. So Savar, Rav Yosef Lameimar, so Rav Yosef thought to say, Seifel. Now, Seifel is like a washing basin. Now, a washing basin is like halfway in between a kos and an ambati. Ambati is like a large tub, right? Like sort of like a holding tank of the water. And a kos is a cup, right? So ambati is like a washing basin. It's much larger. So in other words, the heat of it would be more than a kos, but less of an ambati. So he says, Seifel harei ambati. That Seifel is also can be very hot and can cook just like an ambati, and therefore you can't go ahead and pour cold in there. So Abaye. And so Abai said that. So Tani Reb Chia Seifel and Kambati. He argues. He says no. A Seifel a washing basin is not like an Ambati. And I said, well, am I the Solik Adaita the Mikar? I understand how you held in the beginning. Adaita Mikar the Seifel Harei Kambati. How could you hold that a Seifel or a washing basin is just like Ambati? Why? With Amar of Nachman, because it knows that which you go ahead in a washing basin, which you wash your hands and stuff from. Amar of Nachman, Halachar Shimon Manasseh, because we hold like Rabbi Shimon Manasseh, Lachar, which means that you can't even put cold into hot. So you can't go ahead and put any cold. You can't warm up, right, boiling hot water in a washing basin. So Ella rechitza b'chamin leka, right? So if that's the case, you can't go ahead and use that hot water on Shabbos. So how could you go ahead and ever have a case of a person who, because we know clearly, we said earlier, the person allowed to wash his hands and his feet and his face on Shabbos, but how can that be done if you can't go ahead and cool off the water, right? The water is, you can't go ahead and pour cold into hot, and because we said Rabbi Shimon Eiser, so how could you? What would be the scenario where you be washing that? So Gemara says no. What do you think Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh says? Misar Rabbi Shimon Seifa. Do you think he's going to the Seifa when Beis Shammai says that on Bati you can't go ahead and put cold into hot? No. Areisha. He's actually going in the Reisha. Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh was going on that which he said earlier. Ubeis Hillel matirin ben cham l'seich tzayin ubein tzayin l'seich hacham. So that which Beis Hillel says, it's mutter to put hot into cold or cold into hot. Right? Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh Eiser tzayin l'seich cham. Right? And Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh says no, it's aser tzayin l'seich cham. It wasn't going on the other cases. He wasn't going on right b'med v'rim b'kos. He wasn't talking about a kos there. Rather, he was talking about even the original source of hot into cold and cold to hot. He says no. That which Beis Hillel says hot into cold and cold and hot. No, Beis Hillel never said that. But actually, Beis Hillel, right? So he was only talking about that case. He was telling that he was aser cold into hot. So if that's the case, if that's the case, Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh is no different than Beis Shammai, because Beis Shammai said you can put hot into cold, but you can't put cold into hot. And if Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh is explaining Beis Hillel like that, so what's the difference? So this means to say that's exactly the point. Exactly the point is that Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai are not arguing this point. And both Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai agree that when it comes to the first kli, right, that it doesn't make a difference whether you go ahead and you put, that it does make a difference. He said both of them hold that you can go ahead and put hot into cold, but you can't go ahead and put cold into hot. And Amar Rav Huna berei Rav Yoshua. So says Rav Huna berei Rav Yoshua, Chazina le l'rova delei kapid amana. I actually saw that.
Wait, that doesn't make sense, because then that means that if you make a cup of coffee, you can't add water, milk to your coffee.
No. That's because that's cold into hot.
That's called, yeah.
Right, but your cup.
you can't
right?
do
No, but
hot.
your cup. Yeah, but your cup is a kosheni. It's a klisheni over there, right? Because
Right.
you're not heating up the water in your cup and then removing the cup out the fire. That's not a risha, right? That's a kos. That's a kos. We said, right? So that was the case of. No, they were talking about the kli rishon. Klisheni. That was where they're arguing before. But when it comes to klisheni, right? So we're going to see that klisheni is not mavashal. But let's see. Let's look at the next case.
Well, wait, this is all discussing a cliche.
No.
And it's a cup of hot water or a cup of cold water.
So let's see.
We're not talking about Kli Rishon. We're talking about a cliche.
We were talking about both, right? Because you look at the Mishnah, right? The Mishnah says we're talking about that all the kos shira, right? Now, but let's see the next case. We're not done yet. So Amrav Huna, B'rei Dav Yeshua, Chazina leila Rava delay kapid amana. We see that Rava was not makpid when it came to a mana, to a kli, heating up another kli, right? Midatani, it says that Rebbe Chia Naisin Adam Kiton Shamayim L'Soich Safa Shamayim Bein Chamin L'Toich Tzayim Bein Tzayim L'Soich Chamin. That he used to go ahead and put a cup or some pitcher of water inside a basin, whether it was cold into hot or hot into cold. Maybe that's not a good proof. Why? Dilma Shani Hassan, the Misa Kli. Maybe over there he put the actual Kli in it. In other words, he didn't pour the contents, he put the Kli in it. Samarle, Ma'ara Tamari. Actually, no, there's a Bryce that says it poured. That was the Lashon of Bryce. Ma'ara Adam Kiton Shamayim L'Soich Safal. A person is allowed to go ahead and pour a keton of water into a safal of water. Bein B'cham L'Toich Tzayin and Bein Tzayin L'Toich Chamin. Right? One or the other. So in other words, that we see over there, that one can pour, right, hot into cold or cold to hot when it comes into a basin, right? And a basin we know is hotter than a cup. So a cup would for sure be mutter. I do recall, by the way, though, that if one does pour very slowly, in other words, it could be an issue even in a kli. I don't remember offhand. Like I said, I'm not your local Orthodox rabbi, but even I'm trying to think, even a klisheni, if there's ever any issue of pouring cold into hot. But anyways, it comes out according to the Gemara. The Gemara seems to say, right, once again, you have to pass from Poskim, but not, the Gemara. But according to here, it says, no, you can pour out and the cold, even hot or cold into hot, and it's not an issue of cooking when it comes to Shabbos. Fine. Naya Mishnah.
Naya Mishnah.
So ha'ilfas is like a frying pan.
So the halacha is not according to this Manasseh ben Shimon ben Manasseh.
I mean, he states
because he's saying that you could do either cold into hot or hot into cold.
But that was the argument at the end, right? That was the argument.
That was right.
The
halacha is not according to Reb Shimon ben Manasseh.
So the Gemara brought a proof against Reb Shimon ben Manasseh, right? Like I said, you have to look up the halacha and the poskim and the achronim in terms of how to learn the halacha and the Mishnah Berurah. But right, the Gemara argued with that psak of Reb Shimon, right? Because he says, right. Mishnah says, ha'ilfas, so a frying pan, a hot pan, the hakadera and a pot shavira meireiskan, and you go ahead and you remove him from its boiling, right? In other words, you take it from the fire, right? Lo yitain l'sechem talin. You can't go ahead and put spices in there. You can't go ahead and put spices in a boiling, in a very hot frying pan, right? Even after it's removed from the fire or of a pot. But you can go ahead and place it even in a dish or some sort of serving tray. In other words, you're allowed to go ahead and put the spices in a klisheni. You can put it in a klisheni. You just can't put the spices in a kli rishon, even when the kli rishon is out the fire. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, la kol hu naisen chutz medavar sheish b'chaymetz v'tzir. You can put anything in except for something that has brine or vinegar. Those things are very hot, and those things will cook spices. Other things will not. We have to soon see what Rabbi Yehuda is going on. Is Rabbi Yehuda going on the Reisha and says even on kli rishon you can put spices as long as it doesn't have fish brine and the vinegar? Or is he going in the safe and saying in a klisheni, there's also prohibitions of klisheni if it has vinegar and chametz? Listen, see. So Rabbi Yehuda Areisha Kula is Rabbi Yehuda, like I explained, going in the Reisha and Sakula says no, even a kli rishon you're allowed to go ahead and put spices as long as there's no vinegar or fish brine in there. Or Dilma, or maybe Seifa, he's going to Seifa. Ulachumra, he's going to say, no, Kli Sheni also usher if they have vinegar and fish brine, but all Kli Rishons will be usher. So Tashma, come and listen. The tiny learned by Rabbi Huda Mer Lechol Ilsin Hu Naisein Lechol Kaderis Reischas Hu Naisein. You can go ahead and put it in all frying pans or all dishes that are cooked. Right? Hu Naisein Chutz Medavar Sheish B'Chaimetz Vitzir. Except you can go ahead and put in any Kli Rishon spices and any sort of Kli Rishon unless they have vinegar or brine, and therefore it must be that he's going. That Rabbi Huda is saying that Lekula, that he's arguing, he's being Mekel and says no. All Kli Rishons are good except for that which vinegar and brine, because those get very hot and those will cook these spices. And so Rabbi Yossi thought to say that one version is he thought to say that salt was just like tavlin spices. That in a Kli Rishon it cooks, but in a Kli Sheni you can go ahead and pour salt. It doesn't cook. And Abaye. So however, Abaye says, Tani Reb Chia Melach Eina Ketavlin. It says Abaye. So Abaye says no. Reb Chia taught that salt is not like spices. Why? The Kli Sheni nami bishlo. That even in a Kli Sheni salt cooks. So you can't even go ahead and pour salt in something that was a Kli Sheni. Upligi the Rav Nachman. We argue the Rav Nachman. The Rav Nachman tzricha, and this was different than Rav Nachman. The Rav Nachman says tzricha milcha bishula kebasa ditura. It says no. Salt is not. According to this, you put food on your plate, and then you go ahead and pour salt on the food on your plate, which is a Kli Sheni. That would be usher, right? So he says, no, salt, actually opposite. Salt is very hard to cook, just like salt cooks like a piece of meat. Just like a piece of meat is hard to cook, so salt is hard to cook, right? It's, it's coarse, and you might not see it, but it doesn't cook. Vigadami, some of the different versions, opposite versions. Some Rav Yosef to say that salt is like spices, the Kli Rishon, Bishla, the Kli Sheni Bishla. That only Kli Rishon does it cook, but a Kli Sheni does not cook. And I'm like, Tani Reb Chia. Abaye says, no, Reb Chia taught, Melach Eina Ketavlin. No, salt is much less than spices. The Kli Rishon namila bishla. You can even put it in a Kli Rishon. Why? Because it doesn't cook in a Kli Rishon. Behind the Rav Nachman, that's what Rav Nachman said. Sricha milcha bishula kebishla dazor. Right? The amount it takes to cook salt is the amount it takes to cook a piece of of ox meat. You need a very, very heavy and strong fire in order to cook it. Fine. Mishnah. Now, Mishnah, last Mishnah of the day. Mayor, take it away.
Aye. Naya Mishnah.
Hi, Mishnah.
Mishnah says, Ein Neisnin Kli Takaser. So now, completely moving away from Bishul, now we're talking about Muksa. So it says over there, you cannot go ahead and put a Kli. Now, remember, we talk about these candles, they used to have oil. And now let's say all of a sudden the oil started to drip, right? Or you want to put it even before Shabbos, right? You can't, right? Or actually on Shabbos, right? So you can't put a Kli underneath the candle to catch the oil. Why is that? Because we have a rule, right? That ain't clean nittel, right? For muksa. In other words, if something is prohibited, right? So I can't move something which is not muksa for the purposes of something that's muksa. So the oil is muksa, right? Because the oil was actually put in a candle before Shabbos. It was set aside to burn. And so therefore you can't go ahead and take the oil from it, because then you're basically is a problem of kibui, of extinguishing the fire. And so therefore the oil is muksa. So if the oil starts to drip, I can't go ahead and take a kli, right? Which a very fine bowl, which I could use for my cereal, right? And put it underneath the candle in order to catch the oil, because now I'm moving the kli for the purposes of muksa, and you're not allowed to do that. But if, let's say, I put the bowl there from before Shabbos, then it's mutter. It's no problem to put it before Shabbos. However, I can't go ahead and use that bowl now because it wasn't something that was prepared, right? Since it's not minamukhan, it was not something that was permissible to use on Shabbos. So therefore, that is off limits. So let's see the Gemara. Amar Rav Chisda. So now, based on the Mishnah, even though we say that normally you can't go ahead and move a kli for the purpose of oil, so I would say now let's say a hen, right? It lays an egg on Saturday or every day. So you can't go ahead and put a kli, a bowl underneath it to catch it. Even though you can't put a kli underneath it, tarnagolas, in order to catch its egg. But you're allowed to go ahead and take a bowl, and after it's already there, to put on top so it doesn't break. Why is that? I'm the Rabbi, my time, the Rav Chisa. What's going to Rav Chisa? So Ksaver he holds tarnagolas asu lahatil beitzasa be'ashba. Normally, a tarnagolas right? This hen normally goes and lays its eggs out in the garbage dump, and since you're doing the garbage dump, it's very likely for it to get stepped on. And normally it's not allowed to go ahead. It's not allowed to. It normally doesn't go ahead and lay an egg on something that is slanted, right? On something that is slanted and something like a ramp, right? And therefore, something which is mitsuya, something which is common, right? In other words, like an egg being stepped on in the ashba will be mutar. But something which is not, right? Something which is not common, right? Lo hituru is not permitted. In other words, so since over here that on the egg it is common, right? It is commonplace, and therefore, since this scenario is not so common because hens don't normally go ahead and lay eggs on something which is slanted. So therefore, in this case, you're allowed to go ahead. They don't say you can take a kli and put it underneath it to catch it, but rather once it's there, you can go ahead and cover it. So it was a special case that even though, so the reason why you're allowed to move it in the first place is because it's common, right? And therefore, since it's common, you're allowed to go ahead and move it. But since it's the fact that it doesn't have a ramp, so therefore you can go ahead and cover it and not put it under, but put it another way. We'll soon see why. Now,
and oil is not common.
So the oil will have to say the oil is not common for it to drip. The oil is normally the oil stays in there, but the oil starts to do a good question, right? But the oil is not common for it to drip, and therefore in this case it would be considered to be hatzala she'ena mitsuya. All right, but I'm feeling we're still going to discuss it. And you're telling me hatzala that is not common lo hitiru. But Tani learned by so one case is nish b'lo chavi shel tevel b'roish hagago. So let's say a person has the barrel of tevel, right? With tevel, tevel is wine or whatever, it's produce that they haven't taken trumas meiser. So let's say you have a barrel of wine, okay, and it's muksa because tevel now take truma meiser and Shabbos, and all of a sudden there's a leak in it. It starts to leak, and if I don't go ahead and save it, it's going to be destroyed because it's muksa. So maybe you look you got to go ahead and bring a kli and put it underneath it. So even though that's not mitzvah, it's not common for it to break. Why are you allowed to save it? So Gemara says no. No, we're talking about a new barrel, that was holding it, and therefore, since that's the barrel that was new, it is common for those to break, and therefore, it is considered to be a hatzela, which is mitsuya. So what about you can go ahead and put a kli underneath a candle to catch its sparks? Sparks aren't common. Right, so he said, no, sparks are common, and the Gemara will continue with other kashas, but looks like we did our two blot in under 45 minutes, so we did good today.
Wow.
Sunday.
Like 4 missions.
So now officially caught up from Pesach. Pesach did not get in our way, and now we have the usual Shabbos. So,
great job.
Good Shabbos, everyone.
Be safe.
Have a good Shabbos, everyone.